And finally, I think the main problem with this idea of morality founded on the idea that God tells us what to do. I mean, the higher instance to go to is God than when you want to know what to do, and he tells us. The problem with calling this morality, I mean, I have no problem with understanding this idea. I've repeated that also many times. But the problems with this idea is that you would like to, as soon as you have an authority, as soon as you have someone saying something or doing something, you would like to be able to question, is it the right thing to do? But if God has ordained something, then, I mean, you can't give that kind of, you can't raise this kind of question because it's an empty question. And that's really what's wrong with reducing morality to religion in this way. And there is no need to do that. I don't think that all the authorities Professor Craig were referring to here have done so. I think actually perhaps Ockham did in one interpretation of him, but perhaps he did not. And certainly I think that's not part of Thomas Aquina's view of this. And I think it shouldn't be part of Christian moral faith. That's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Craig, 5 minutes.
I think what we've seen tonight is a demonstration of how secular philosophy too often overlooks the alternative provided by Christian theism. In our post-Christian Western society, we just sort of assume that we've got to get along without God and that a theistic foundation for a world and life view is outmoded and obsolete. And therefore, it's simply not taken seriously or examined carefully by many of our prominent moral theorists today. But when you do examine it closely, it seems to me that Christian theism provides a far more plausible foundation for the ethical life than does atheism. I think we've seen tonight first that theism provides a sound foundation for morality. It gives us objective values, it gives us objective moral duties, it gives us moral accountability, and I think none of these have been refuted in tonight's debate. By contrast, I think we've seen that atheism, when you question its assumptions, just doesn't stand up. The problem with Dr. Tännsjö's hedonistic utilitarianism is not the utilitarianism so much, it's not the superstructure, it's the foundations on which it's built, it's the atheism on which it's built. And that simply provides a rotten foundation for a system of ethics. First of all, there's no reason to have objective moral values on such a view. On such a view, there simply isn't any reason to identify pleasure or the pleasure of mental states as having this odd property of goodness. And if you do, it still leads then to everything being permitted. Now, interestingly enough, he admitted in his last speech that on his view, in one sense, everything is permitted. And I think that's right. But he said it's not in the sense by Dostoevsky. Well, I would say that on atheism, everything is permitted in multiple senses. First, everything is permitted in the sense that on the basis of maximizing pleasure, you can justify anything. In his book, Dr. Tännsjö even says that torture of an innocent person could be justified to bring about the maximal happiness of a great number of already very happy people. So you can justify anything on that principle. Secondly, in Dostoevsky's sense, there's no immortality and therefore no moral accountability. In that sense, everything is permitted. Thirdly, I've argued there's no moral duties because there's no moral lawgiver, and so everything is permitted literally in that sense. Nothing is forbidden. So atheism just doesn't have the ontological wherewithal to provide a sound foundation for morality. As for moral accountability, Dr. Tännsjö repeats, there are moral reasons for self-sacrifice, but you cannot provide moral reasons for adopting the moral point of view, because what we are asking is, why should we heed those moral reasons? And here, you must provide some non-moral reason for why you adopt the moral point of view on atheism. And there simply isn't any reason, because there's no moral accountability. This is not a problem I invented. This is a problem, for example, that Kai Nielsen, as we saw in my first speech, struggles with, because as an atheistic ethicist, he says there is no way to refute the egoist or the amoralist who says, why adopt the moral point of view on atheism? So basically, I think atheism is really bankrupt when it comes to